Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Dean Rogers. Welcome back to the Dean Rogers Show. Today, we have an incredible guest, Mr. Tim I. What's up, Tim?
What's up? Hey, Dean. Thanks for
What's
having
up?
me.
It's honestly, it's such an honor to have you on here. One of the very first podcasts I ever did was actually on your podcast, and you're an OG, man. You're one of the guys that were on my radar and that I knew about when I was first getting started. And whether you know it or not, man, you've been a lot of inspiration and motivation for me in my journey. So it's an honor to
Well,
have you
thank
here.
you. Yeah, definitely. It's honors on mine for sure. And yeah, I think that podcast must have been 2017-ish, right?
Hmm.
So good
Hmm.
6 years ago. Wow.
Yeah,
You've been blowing it up big time.
been working
So
hard.
that's awesome.
Been working hard, man. I appreciate that. For those of you that don't know Tim, and maybe you've been living under a rock or something, Tim is the American dream. I'm gonna let you share the details of your background and how you got here to America. But Tim has an incredible story about how he got started. He's been in the single family real estate investing space for now a couple of decades, and now has let's call it elevated his game to another level and working on bigger and better deals in the commercial space. So lots of exciting stuff that we'll be sharing there. Tim has also taught thousands of people how to get started in real estate, how to find success in real estate, and also because of what you've not only done in the single family space but multifamily, have created lots of great opportunities for people to get returns on their money, and that's what it's all about, is finding those kind of relationships. And that, lastly, Tim's a leader there in Houston, Texas, and has different charitable organizations that he's a part of and helps raise money for. So just an incredible human. You and your wife are always just a pleasure to see. You always just exude all this excitement and positivity. So it just feels good to be around you, man. And for those of you that want to connect with Tim, you guys can check him out on Instagram. Go to Tim My Com on Instagram. So yeah, man. Again,
Yeah, or
thanks
you
for
can go
being
to
here.
Thanks. Yeah. And if you go to timmai.com, it's like a
There we go.
link tree. It'll give you access to all of my stuff. But yes, thanks. Awesome introduction. I appreciate that. And yeah, so, just jump right in. If you ever heard of the term Vietnamese boat people, I'm one of those. You, I mean, if you heard of the term, you probably about my age. There's the After the war ended in 1975, the communist government took over, and so a lot of the people from Vietnam try to escape out of Vietnam. Um, and because you can't just leave, you have to escape, and if they catch you, they'll put you in jail. So my whole family has tried to escape out of Vietnam many times, wasn't successful. And then when my older brother, he turned 18, and I was 11 years old at this time. My parents wanted him to be able to leave because when a boy turns 18 back then, it's an automatic draft into the communist military. And
Wow.
so a lot of boys would either escape out of the country or they'll cut off their index finger so they can't pull the trigger. Yes, it's
What?
extreme. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so my parents wanted him to try again and escape out, and he didn't want to go alone. So he asked if I can come along. And as a little kid, I didn't know any better. So it's like, sure, I'll come along. We'll be back home anyways, because we always never make it and we come back home. And yeah, so we so the process of getting out, we have to basically hide out during the day and go on foot little by little to get closer to the port. We made it to a little fishing boat. It's not a very big fishing boat, but there were 37 of us. I was the only child, And me and the woman literally like had, because it's a very small fishing boat, you're trying to go, underground, like go really quiet. So we were laying underneath the boat, the front of the boat, like sardines, literally. And the men, my brother and a few other men, they sat next to the engine and constantly scooping out water because the boat had a leak. Yeah, and so we floated out at sea for 7 days and 7 days and 6 nights, and on about the fourth day we got hijacked by 5 pirate boats. These are not like Pirates of the Caribbeans. They're basically Thai fishermen, but they're thieves. So they would come over, rape the woman, throw the man off the boat, take whatever valuables that they can find. For us, luckily, they came over and they took whatever they could, but they didn't do any harm to any of us. Unlike my sister-in-law, my brother's wife, her family, in that process, her dad and 2 other brothers die in that process. Yeah,
Wow.
so it's so we literally floated out at sea after they took whatever they could. They left us on our way. And then on the 7th day was when we got rescued by a Malaysian boat, and they took us to the Malaysian refugee camp. And so I spent 6 months in the Malaysian refugee camp and then 6 months in the Philippines refugee camp before I was able to get accepted and made it here to the U.S. Because back then the U.S. the U.S. has always been very acceptant to young people, letting young refugees to come in. And so we made it here to Houston. I was 12 years old. He was 19. 2 boys on the streets on our own, no parents. So we had the teen dream life where we had all the freedom that we wanted. But we literally just did whatever we could to survive. We live in a 2-bedroom Section 8 housing apartment. And at any given time, there were at least 8 to 12 other young kids, runaway kids that were living with us. And we did a lot of stupid stuff, including dealing drugs, and I'm like in middle school dealing drugs. I believe that.
Wow.
We did a lot of crazy stuff, but luckily, we got out of that environment and clean up and all of that good stuff. And I was able to finish high school. I went to college, and then toward the end of my college, I didn't finish. I got recruited by an IT company. Back then, during the .com war, it was hot. So I got so I moved to Dallas and worked for an IT firm, and then the .com bust came. So here I am. I thought I achieved my American dream, the dream that my parents had for us to come to America, get well educated, get a good job. And then now I'm laid off, right? And I was forced to figure out what's next. And I went to the bookstore, pick up Rich Dad Poor Dad, and then it's like, okay, I want to get into real estate investing. And so the very first mentoring program I bought was from Robert Allen's mentoring program.
Really?
And amazingly now I'm friends with Robert, and I'm in his book. He has a book called the Millionaire Ego. No, the 1 Minute Millionaire, and he has all these people in the program called the Millionaire Ego. So my name is in the back of the book. So it's a cool thing. But funny story. Now that I'm in multifamily and commercial real estate, when I walk these properties, some of these apartments that were built in the 70s and 80s, flashback to my Section 8 housing apartment. I'm like, wow, this is like the identical layout and everything. It's it's pretty fascinating.
That's wild. I actually didn't know all that story about you. So to hear firsthand, I mean, it sounds like, obviously very challenging, but it sounds like you had a pretty optimistic viewpoint. I mean, I only see optimism from you. You're always just smiling and laughing. Were those times really hard, or were you just looking at that as like, this is this new opportunity and it was exciting and fun? What was that actually like?
Yeah, like you don't really know any better. Like for me, this is just the way of life. Like that, I didn't have anything to compare to that says, oh, this is harder than what most people have it. No, it's like this is life, and like you just live day by day, right? Whatever
Mm,
life gives you. And so yeah, so I think um it gives that kind of perspective, and so it reminds me of like however we live right now, right? We don't see anything wrong with it. Like it could be 20 years from now, we look back at what we're doing now. It's like, what? You were playing so small, but we don't know that, right? We're just playing how we're playing right now. So
yeah,
yeah, so no, for me it was just a way of life, and like I didn't think it was bad or wrong or any of that stuff. It's like, yep, it's another day.
yeah, that's crazy. But yeah, what a transformation. I mean, to come from that kind of background and those obstacles you had to overcome and living through those kind of conditions to where you're at now. I mean, you must feel pretty proud about what you've been able to accomplish and what you've been able to overcome, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, I've accomplished a lot, and I mean, if it just I'm const I love the growth that I get to go on in this journey, and like I get to see how much growth I have, and I get to see how colorful my life is, and so yeah, I'm super blessed for the for the life that I have, and the journey that I've been on for sure. I've grown a whole lot, and I get to appreciate things differently, and I look at opportunities too very differently than most people, I think. And so, yeah, like I see everything as, an opportunity. And even if it's an obstacle, it's like, well, how can I turn this into an opportunity?
Mhm.
Right. Yeah.
Would you say that that background that you had was a lot of what gives you drive, or were you just
Um,
already a driven person?
well, I do find myself that I have a stronger, um, like a survival instinct, I guess. And it's probably from that. Like I can see the way I run my business, and the level of intensity that I put in. Because, dude, like I remember back in middle school, there were so many days I came home from school, opened up a refrigerator, and there's literally nothing to eat. We have a bottle of water that we filled with tap water, and we put it in the refrigerator. Like that's what we had. And so yeah, like that drive to survive is really built into me. And now I do have to be careful about that. Sometimes I can't take business too seriously, and I'm like in that, and like I might, because I find myself, especially when it comes to negotiating, I find myself like negotiating harder than I need to, or being more attached to the outcome, and to having to make that money. I'm like chill, like you're not in survival mode anymore, right? So yeah, it definitely grew me in that way.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, everyone is usually living out their life a lot of because of how they grew up,
Yeah.
So that's pretty remarkable to hear that story. So let's flash forward to kind of what things are looking like now and what's driving you. Again, we shared kind of in the intro what you got going on, what you're doing, some of the great things you're involved with, but where what's the most exciting thing for you now? Where
Yeah.
where are you finding the most opportunity and excitement from?
Right. Yeah. So two things. Number one, so I got into this commercial real estate space just a little bit over a year ago. And so I've been in real estate for 21 years now. I can't believe it. And yeah, a little bit over a year ago. And how I got into this space is very thanks to a friend of mine, Javier Hinojo, who
Mm,
I've now done a lot of projects with. But I hosted an event that I had Robert Allen came and keynote the event, and Javier was there. And I was talking to Javier, and he's like, "Yeah." I stopped doing fix and flip now. Each deal that I do these days add at least $1 million to my net worth. I was like, what? Right? Because here I am, doing all these single family houses. It doesn't make anywhere near that amount per deal, right? And so I was like, wow, tell me more about that. So he started telling me, and then during that event, my son turned 16. His daughter was getting ready to turn 16, and then I was like, hey. So I talked to Robert Allen. It's like, hey, let's do something for teens, for young people, and so we came up with the idea to do a Teen Millionaire Challenge, and and the goal there is to teach young people real estate investing, and getting them to $1 million net worth while they are still a teenager. And so
That's cool.
so through that program, so Javier was the main teacher of the program. So through that program, I get to learn more about this whole commercial space, and so I get to watch these young people. So it was a year-long program, and they made offers on probably over $2 billion worth of real estate in that year. And so I get to watch kids. I mean, little, like, it's mind blowing. These kids, they don't know any better. And they're on the phone with brokers like they're an adult and making all these offers. And because we had them target 100 plus units. So these are typically, the low end is, at least $10 million plus properties. And it shifted my mind in so much. And here I am for 20 years. I used to think that, commercial real estate is too big for me. It's more complicated. It's more dollar. I'm comfortable with, I like doing single family because I can do it in my sleep. I even teach people how to flip houses, so it's like I can do it in my sleep. But man, it just shatters so many of those limiting beliefs that I have. And so now, so since then, I got myself in the commercial real estate space now. I am both a passive investor and also an active operator as well, in over 2,800 units of multifamily now. And now, and I'm doing some land development as well. And so it just got me to, now, like I whenever I hear myself saying, "Oh, that's too big for me," I have to catch myself, like, no, someone else just like me, probably not much smarter than me, did that.
Like, true.
So I'm absolutely in love with this commercial real estate space. And the cool thing about this industry that I have not found anywhere else, any other industry, is that every single person that I'm in contact with, whether it's a seller, a buyer, a broker, lender, an investor, everyone starts out at a higher caliber because the industry is a bigger dollar amount. So you have everyone's at a high caliber, and because the deals are much bigger, people are forced to play well together in partnerships. So it's like partnerships is built in. There's nothing in this industry that you can do yourself. The deal's just too big for people to do it themselves, and so it forces the partnership. So there's so many things I love about this. So I told my son, I was like, okay, if you decide to do real estate, I want you to skip the whole single family home stuff, like go straight into the commercial stuff. So.
Yeah, no, it's obvious, seeing all the stuff that you're doing on social media and the events that you're doing, that you are 2 feet in. You are all about it. And I love seeing that commitment and that passion. So tell me, what was it that you had to do from a mind shift, from a skill set, information? What did you have to do to shift? I mean, you'd spent and dedicated so much of your time and life and had great success with single family and with teaching others how to be successful there too. What did that
Right.
transition look like from a time? Like how long did it take you to transition and to get the skills? And what did you have to like shift in your mind to be able to do it?
Yeah, great question. So I used to think that I have to know all these things, right? Like I have to know how to analyze an apartment deal. I have to know how to raise money. I have to know like, all like how to talk to brokers. I have to know all of these things. And being in this industry, I realized like I don't need to know any of those things. Like I can't believe it because there's always someone that knows more about that topic than I do.
Mm,
So all I have to do is know what I know and bring that to the table and partner up with others that know the other part that I don't know. So
mm,
like yeah, so like I get to play. So I love marketing. Marketing is my favorite thing to do in business, and so it's like, okay, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna focus in on marketing for passive investors. That's it. That's all I'm gonna do. I'm not even the person who's great at talking to the passive investor to convert them into investors. So it's like I know how to market. I know how to build, funnels and like websites for lead gen. I know how to build the follow-up sequences. So I am going to partner up with others who's going to bring the deal, someone else who's going to analyze the deal, someone else who's going to pick up the phone and talk to these passive investors and convert them into investing with us. And so yeah, and because I got so focused in like the one thing that I do the best in the business in the last so officially I started uh, April 2022.
mm.
We are now August 2023. So like a month and I mean a year and like 4 or 5 months in, and I am quite known in the industry now.
Yeah.
Versus when I came in, like hardly anyone knows me. And yeah, and so that's I mean like that was a huge limiting belief that I couldn't believe that like that held me back. So I still don't know how to underwrite, analyze.
That's such a great lesson though, because I think most people have the belief that they need to learn it all. They need to understand every little aspect. And you're proof right there that, especially with commercial real estate, and I'm saying this all out loud so I can hear it myself because I need to hear this message. And I'm actually experiencing this right now. I was just telling you about the deal I'm working on right now, 1 million square feet of warehouse in Texas, your backyard. And it's the same thing. I had a limiting belief that I can't get involved in this deal. I don't know enough about how to underwrite the deal. I don't know enough about all the plans and the logistics of how to execute and the construction. But I just showed up with what I knew how to do, and it was to connect people. And so
I
here I
love
am, we're
it.
having conversations with potentially someone buying out this whole project. And that really is a great lesson and nugget you just dropped there that I'm saying out loud again, because I need to hear it again myself. If you just show up with what you have to bring, sometimes that's all you need.
Yeah. We learn it when we learn it, right? And so yeah, if you guys listening to this, whatever that your mind tells you that is too big, you can't do it, you don't have the knowledge, you don't have what it takes, you don't have the connections, just know that those are all just limiting beliefs. That's all they are. They're not the truth. All it takes is you saying yes to it, and then
Hmm.
the rest will figure itself out. Like like you will figure the rest of it out. But yeah, just don't let those voices stop you, And yeah, I mean, now, so one of the things I do to practice like building this muscle is whenever I'm driving down the street now and I see a beautiful building or something that like just inspire me that I was like, wow, I love that. I would say I can do that, and I would tell or if my kids are with me, I was like, hey guys, look at that. What do you think we can do with that building? What can we, and then so like we play this game of how we can add value to this building or how we can maybe even tear it down and build something else on it. I mean, that kind of game is amazing, and it builds your muscle to think that anything is possible.
I love that. And I think it's not only good for you, but amazing for your kids because I've got young kids and I'm starting to plant seeds too. And it is amazing what they can, if you break it down to, elementary level, it's amazing what concepts they can grasp and how impactful it is for them. And
Yeah.
to share that with them and get them thinking about that now is such a blessing. It's
Yeah.
gonna be so good
Yeah, I
for
mean,
them.
one of the things that I, as an adult and as a parent especially, I often put limits on my kids. But now that, I get to see, especially my older one, with this real estate stuff, I get to see like, oh man, any any limitation that I think that he has, it's only my own imposed limitation on him. I mean, because young people, they don't have the baggage that we do as
Right.
adults, right? They haven't been through the challenges that we have, and they don't have the scars that we have, and so they come in with a fresh new mind, and they can do whatever. And it's really beautiful to see. I wish that as adults that we can see life that way,
Mm.
and yeah, so now it's like I remind myself if I ever think that my kids can't do something, I remind myself it's like, oh, they can do it. Like it's like there's no limitation. There's no such thing because especially in today's world with the amount of technology and resources and AI and ChatGPT, it's like, I mean, there's no limit. Like the sky's not even the limit anymore.
Right.
Like, yeah,
That's a good point. Yeah, I think that's a great message, and a reminder as well, is a lot of parents will create the limiting beliefs for their own kids because of the baggage that they have, the life
yeah,
experiences that they have, and sometimes that becomes generational. And so
yeah,
they're living out what their parents told them, and then they teach their kids that, and that continues. So to break the cycle or to create a new, fresh perspective and give them that, that inspiration, they can do anything, and then give them the tools on how to do some of the things that they're thinking of is how you change generations, right?
right.
So
Yep.
I love that, man. You're getting me fired up thinking about it because, I find myself being guilty of, just being heads down in the business and working and spending time with my kids, a lot more than most people do for sure because of the freedom that I've been able to create with real estate. But most of it is playtime, at sports or going to the park or, just everyday type of stuff. But I am being more intentional about teaching them and not thinking that they're too young, right? I
Yeah.
was just teaching
Yeah.
my 7 and 5-year-old, my two oldest, about credit cards and how that works with credit card companies and the banks. And
That's
just by
awesome.
that one lesson, just at the dinner table, they're now repeating back some of the things. And they were even
Love
saying,
it.
I was telling my wife, I said, well, do you have the money for that? Right. Cause she had asked, she wanted to spend some money on something. And I was like, well, do you have the money for that? And one of my sons said, just use the credit card, right? You can pay it back within 30 days, no problem. Cause I was telling him if you borrow it past that, then you're going to incur
It's
interest. And the way you got to do it is pay it back before that. That's the right way to use credit cards. So you got
That's
to have,
good.
it was just, you can pay it back before 30 days, no problem, Dad. So, but
Yeah,
let's
that's awesome.
let's talk about your family because I think one of the things that is inspiring to me is I see you and your wife at almost every event that I've been at, and to me that excites me, and it also says something about your guys' relationship and what you've been able to do. And
Yeah.
on that note, like usually I'm in my studio. I'm actually here. I told you before the show. I just told my wife at breakfast this morning, hey, there's a meetup. Dan Fleischman and Pace Morby are throwing an event at Dan's ranch. It sounds fun. She's like, let's go. So she was making the effort of like, let's go do these things together. So tell me about you and your wife and how you guys are going to these events together.
Yeah, yeah. So we're high school sweethearts. We
So
actually,
are we.
yeah, yeah. Oh, very cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we met each other in freshman year of high school. We started dating in junior year of high school. So we've been together for most of our lives,
Yep.
more than half. And yeah, we're both very family oriented. And we both come from the mindset of like family is what's most important. And so yeah, even when our kids were very young, everywhere we go we would bring them and bring a nanny along as well. So we're all
Hmm.
there. And yeah, it wasn't until they have school and have school activities and stuff that they stopped traveling with us. But yeah, so you know, and my wife does a better job at this than I do. So whenever she made it a condition that anywhere that I go, that she gets to come along, right? And if she doesn't have to attend the event, if she doesn't want to, she'll go hang out, whatever. But we're always together, and so yeah, so that just become our like yeah, our normal thing. Like we don't really think about it. We don't have to so I know if I'm gonna go somewhere, I'm gonna budget for two, not one. Yeah, so it's just become something that we're like tradition, I guess you call
Yeah,
it. But yeah, we're really big. I mean, it's not all, roses, of course. We
of
do have
course.
lots of challenges in our relationship. The For us anyways, the cool thing about being high school sweetheart is that, we've been together that long. The bad thing is sometimes when we argue, we feel like, oh man, we're two high school kids all over again.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
And
That's
so
funny.
yeah, but yeah, so we just made it a thing, and we're both very committed to each other, and so we know that like no matter what, divorce is not an option for us. We're gonna talk it out, work it out, do whatever. Like we don't have an option B. We don't that just we don't allow that. So yeah.
Yeah. I bring that up because you hit without me knowing, your answer before that, you hit on so many hot points that are so good to bring up because look, marriage is hard all by itself, even in the perfect of situations. Entrepreneurship is really hard, right? And to put the two together can be really challenging. And yeah, it doesn't matter how long you've been together. It's definitely not rainbows and butterflies all the time. And the roses can stink really bad. And so it's hard. And trying to figure out what works is something that you got to be constantly working on. And there'll
Yeah,
be different seasons as well. Different seasons where
yeah,
things are great, different seasons where things are really hard. So I just noticed that, and I thought it would, be cool to kind of see what your guys' perspective. But yeah, that's a great lesson to people listening to this that are in a relationship that are already entrepreneurs or want to be entrepreneurs. Is if you forget about the relationship, and there's been seasons where I have like not completely forgot about it, but I've been focused on the mission, right? And I think a lot of us get stuck there, and it doesn't help, right? It doesn't
yeah,
help. It actually hurts you more than anything. So,
right.
yeah, no, that's
Yeah, and
fair.
yeah, and then another thing I want to add to that, just like how with our business, we go to seminars, right, to learn how to build our business, right? We do the same thing in our marriage. Like we go to marriage type of seminars,
Hmm.
and one of the seminars that we went to, the theme, well, it's not the theme, but they mention it a lot. It's like your spouse is not your enemy. And that really stuck with me,
Even though it might
So
feel
like,
like it sometimes.
yeah, like my wife and I, we have to remind each other, it's like, hey, I am not your enemy.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, but yeah, like, but just like you have personal development, you have books that you read for your business. You do really have to do those kind of things for your relationships as well. And just like you have business meetings, you want to have that for your relationship. Date nights like you guys are doing,
Hmm.
tonight, right? With your whole family. My wife and I have date nights every Friday nights. And then even as a family, like no matter what we do, Sunday is our family day. So like if the kids have anything planned, it has to include the family or else they don't get to do it.
Mm,
And so that's we're pretty big on certain things like that. Yeah.
that's huge. Yeah. Tim, I gotta say, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast, man, and to get to know you more than I already knew. Like I said, it's always a pleasure when I see you. Let's leave it off with you sharing a little bit about what you're doing with the charities. I've been noticing that too as well. What kind of stuff have you been doing?
Yeah, so several things. So there's uh, a group here in Houston, a charity here in Houston that support um, middle school and high school young people. I don't want to call them kids, but young people who parents are incarcerated.
Mm,
And so I volunteer and donate and participate in that a lot. We're building a village in Haiti right now with Frank McKinney. So I'm super proud about that. It's a 50 home village.
oh wow.
Yeah, and then at my event coming up here in September, the gentleman, our keynote speaker, if you guys heard of the movie Sound of Freedom, well, he was the major funder and executive producer in that movie.
Wow.
So I'm pretty so he's no longer with this organization Operation Underground Railroad
Mm, mm,
uh, fight sex trafficking. He started his own organization called Children Liberation Foundation, and so yeah, he's our keynote speaker. He's also a huge fund manager. So he co-founded Bridge Investment Group. He is now retired from that fund, but the fund is now a publicly traded fund, and they are at $48 billion asset under management. It's like one
jeez.
of the yeah. His fund is one of the 12 companies, including BlackRock, that buys directly from Fannie Mae. And yeah, and so he's coming as our speaker, and so we'll be raising money for his foundation as well. And then not so much charity, but we are relaunching our Teen Millionaire Challenge this year. And so, like, if you guys have young people ages 16 to 20 years old, go to teenmillionairechallenge.com. I'm not sure when this airs, but regardless when this airs, if you have a young person in your life, let them know about it. And yeah, we're doing, the program complete virtual this year, so we are able to take on more young people than we did last time. But yeah, that's my huge passion project. It's not a charity. It doesn't make any money for me. But it's eventually I would love to turn it into a nonprofit, and I would love to have all of the teens that graduated from the previous program to run it and like keep it going. Is what I'm trying to build from it. But yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. We're starting a reg CF, which stands for crowdfunding. And so the teams that are in the program, they get to invest into that
mm,
fund, and that fund is going to be used to like do earnest money, risk capital, and even do bridge lending, because the Reg CF, the government allows you up to $5 million, and so So that 5 million, we can use it for gap funding. So let's say someone buying an apartment building, they needed $5 million to close, but they raised 3 million. They're short 2 million. We'll come in with the remaining 2 million, and get a piece of the deal, things like that. So we'll be doing
Mhm.
that with the fund. So yeah, it'll be a lot. It'll be a lot of fun.
So cool, dude.
Yeah.
Amazing. Man, I'm excited. Yeah, I'm excited to see the journey and hear the stories about how this all develops. So, man, what a great pleasure to have you on, man. Again, for all the listeners, make sure you connect with Tim. Go to timmai.com, see all his stuff there. Connect with him on Instagram as well. And thanks so much for being on, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on.
Of course. All right, guys. Till next time. Peace.
Peace.